Paul Allen is the writer of Brassed Off. He brought it to the stage, and he joins me now to tell me more about how this came about. Hi, Paul. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. You?
Oh, all good here, and looking forward to seeing Brassed Off on stage, and an honour to have the writer visiting the theatre where it's currently being rehearsed at the moment. So that must be a good experience.
It's a great experience, actually. And my favourite thing is probably being in a room with actors, making all the stuff you've done not terribly well look much better than it really is. So, because actors are wonderful people, actually. They're prepared to go into emotional places in the privacy of a rehearsal room that you wouldn't dare go yourself.
Yeah, so then by the time they get to performing with an audience, they're ready to experience everything that the play has to throw at them.
Well, you hope so, yeah, and this has quite a lot, because there are lots of emotional highs and emotional deaths in the course of it. You know, and somebody on threshold of death at one point, and then other people having the time of their life in winning brass band contests at the Albert Hall. So it's a lot of bit of a Big Dipper, yeah.
But I mean, as from your point of view, I mean, you came to this, what, 98 was it that you wrote it?
Yes, yeah. I mean, what happened was that we were in Sheffield, where I was on the board of the theatre. Then we suddenly had this bit of a crisis, and we needed to have something which was going to get an audience in. And without thinking about it ahead, I had no idea I was about to say this. I said, why didn't we see if we can get the rights to Brassed Off? And the chief executive of the theatre said, and you probably know somebody who could adapt it, do you? And I said, well, yeah, I could have a go. And we had a very short time in which to do it, because this was towards the end of the financial year, and it had to go on before the end of the financial year.
Yeah.
And I was having 2 weeks on holiday in New Zealand in between. So it got written at very, very high speed, and then adapted quite a lot in rehearsal, obviously. But it was an exciting time, because you suddenly realised you'd touched a nerve. I mean, this was a short time after the film had come out, but it was also a short time after the pits had closed, and the miners' strike, which is in the background to the piece the whole time, was still a very vivid memory. Actually, it still is. I don't know about down here, but in Yorkshire, it's still very vivid, and there are places where you have to be careful what you say.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that does touch on all the communities across the UK. That wherever you've got industry, you are going to have had pits bringing the fuel to fire that in the Black Country more so than anywhere. So you know, it is something that is going to hammer home. And still, that bit of Yorkshire that it's based around, it has got so much going for it with the band and everything else, and there is so much for people to lose. I think that was part of the problem.
Well, they had everything to lose, didn't they? That was the thing. By losing the pit, they lost their livelihood. They lost the way they earned their money, but they also lost a huge sense of pride in what they did, because it's very dangerous. I mean, when I was training as a journalist, I went down a pit for a day, not a whole shift, but crawled along a coal face where they had automatic pit props moving forwards towards the face. So you heard these things creaking and moving, knowing you were thousands of feet underground. And then this whacking great shearing machine going up and down. And it was horrible. I mean, I'm terrified. And they do this every day. Now, if you can do that, there's a great pride to be had in doing it. And knowing that it supplied, first of all, your own community, and then fueled the entire economy, was a huge source of pride and dignity and sense of self-respect that they had. All that was being taken away, which meant feeding their families was being taken away, the sense of community was being taken away, and with it, this huge expression of their artistic side, which nobody really expected miners to have, but they do, which was the brass band, which was, if you like, the biggest symbol of the community, I suppose, in its way, in a place which hadn't really got an awful lot else going for it. You know, it didn't have its own theatre, it didn't have its own social. Well, it had its miners' welfare type social clubs, and that was it.
And with the generational effect, I mean, you're going back 100 years or so, and the rest, and obviously that's how people have been involved. So suddenly not to have that, and the threat of it being taken away, you know, it was just destroyed the community.
Well, it's interesting, you know, by the church in Grimethorpe, where this play is really set, there's of course a war memorial which lists all the names of the people who were killed in the First World War. Alongside it is a list of all the names who died down the pit. And the names of people who died down the pit is longer even than the First World War death lists. And you realise just how deep it goes into the community, in the literal sense, obviously underground, but deeply into the community in other respects as well. So yeah, life and death, and exhilaration, and of course there's a love story in it as well, which has its rocky bits to negotiate, but also has its sexy bit to negotiate. So it is.
Which was the most fun to write, then the rocky bits or the sexy bits?
Oh well. The thing is, you can't say too much about the sexy bit. You have to leave it to people's imagination, don't you? Whereas the rocky bit is you can put everything in.
And did you draw on that journalistic background more than just having seen a pit when you were trying to adapt this?
Well, I'm because I've been a journalist, I'm kind of keen on things being reasonably accurate. This may come as a surprise to some people. Journalists do try to get it right on the whole. Now, what I'm aware of is the story of Brastoff in the film. The music in it is not authentic insofar as they play well-known piece of music that you'd be glad to hear in the concert hall, not the newly composed, rather challenging modern piece that they're asked to play on these occasions because they have to be seen to be delivering new music as well. And how do they grapple with this rather difficult piece? So you don't get that. So it's not authentic in that respect, but I wanted it to be authentic in other respects. So I went to Grimethorpe, talked to people, and luckily I have a bit of background with brass music. I've never been in a brass band, but I was in a school military band which had other instruments as well. And I was a very, very, very poor trombonist. I mean, very.
Yeah, I on my notes it says you have promised never to play the trombone again.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's, I think there could be a court order restraining me.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, we had a school orchestra which was quite high quality in many ways, but we tackled the Tchaikovsky Pathetic Symphony, and in the first movement in that, there's a place where the bass trombone has to play a note which is in 5th position. Now this is halfway. Yeah, imagine you've got trombone in front of you. You've got the bell there and your slide which goes out there. 6th position was about as far as I could reach at that age, and 5th position is halfway between that and the bell. And the thing is, there are 2 ways of getting the note wrong on the trombone.
And you found both of them?
I found both of them.
Well done.
And at the end, I remember rehearsing it, and the conductor saying, well, this is supposed to be, I said this was meant to be a ghastly chord. No, I said this was supposed to be a ghostly chord. I didn't mean it to be ghastly. And it was awful. And they brought a professional in from the Royal Marine School band. And when we got to it in the concert, he didn't play. And I said, why didn't you play that? He said, oh, it's bloody difficult, that one.
Oh dear. But I mean, you're putting people to the test, because this is kind of a musical that's not a musical in many ways, isn't it?
No, it's not a musical because nobody sings.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of music in it, though. And it sort of has the effect of being a play which occasionally turns into a concert, but a concert in which things are at stake. I think the story runs right through the music as well, which is what happens in a good musical as well. If you see Chicago or whatever, they're singing the next stage in the plot as well as everything else, and that every bit of music that there is has a part to play in the plot. Even when they think Danny might be dying, and they go and play a small bunch of them play Danny Boy at his bedside. Yeah, that's telling you something about the story as well as being a profoundly emotional moment.
Yeah.
Sentimental, some might say. I say emotional. It's very strong.
Yeah. But a piece of music that can stir all sorts of emotions on its own, let alone you putting a story to it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course. I mean, famously, it was, it's known as the London Derriere. It was collected by a Protestant minister's wife in Derry years ago, who called it that, and you could even have a territorial argument as to which part of the Northern Irish community that tune belongs to, which we won't go into now.
No. Let's enjoy the music. Let's leave it there. Now, your time at the Crucible, you wrote a very interesting review of what was a theatre which just had its own set of turmoils around it when it opened, in the early part of the 70s?
Yeah, in the early part of the 70s, it was, because it's built with a thrust stage, which people will have seen for the World Snooker Championships on television. There were a lot of people opposed to that, including some of the old stagers who'd been at the old Rep Theatre at Sheffield Playhouse, including an actor called Bernard Mars, who was very famous at the time because he'd done some adverts which were very popular. But he'd then taken over the Mermaid in London, where he used to play Long John Silver every Christmas. Now, if you've got two legs and you're playing somebody with one leg, what you do is tie one leg up to your thigh,
Right.
at the back there. I can't do it. But
We're not going to get you to play that part at any point.
no, and you can get away with it so long as you can stay at the back of the stage and just face out front and go up and down the back of the stage, and people won't see that you've got two complete legs there. It's the opposite to that Peter Cook and Dudley Moore sketch about the one-legged actor. Anyway, so he could get away with that, and what he realised, I guess, is if you're on a thrust stage, you cannot get away with that. It's got to be real. He opposed it. He wrote in a number of celebrities to support him, and the evening paper in Sheffield sort of gave that a lot of publicity, which gave me the opportunity to be on the side of developing this, what is a wonderful theatre in my opinion, and where I've seen some fantastic work over the years. So I was kind of in there early on as a supporter, which I'm pleased to say still gets me a free ticket.
Oh, that's what counts, isn't it? But I mean, you've worked in publicity in theatre as well. In fact, was it the Belgrade in Coventry when you bumped into Geoffrey for the first time?
I did bump into Geoffrey the first time. I turned up there to solve a problem they had with the local press, which was solved in about 3 minutes. A matter of talking to the local critic, which nobody seemed to have done very much. And we went to the pub called Mar Brown's in Coventry, which I heartily recommend if it's still the same as it was then. And we had a lunch in which neither of us ate anything, and then we solved everything. And then they kind of threw publicity at me, because there was somebody who was doing publicity who resigned shortly after I got there.
You have that effect on people?
Don't know whether it's because of me or not.
Okay.
And I had no knowledge of publicity, and sort of a couple of weeks later, the star of the pantomime, a local comedian called George Moon, was in saying, "Why has there been no publicity?" And I was the person who copped for it. And Geoffrey Holland was his... was Simple Simon to his Widow Twankey, if you see what I mean. It was the kind of almost the comic feed to the thing. So I need to remind Geoffrey that I'm the person who failed to get publicity for his first pantomime. Not his first pantomime, he's done it before, but yeah.
Certainly one of his early ones back in early 1970s.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
So it's all part of a career which has spanned decades for him and for you and several members of the cast, but all for the right reasons, because you guys seem to know what you're doing, which is nice.
Well, it's a funny thing actually, because obviously actors are actors and writers are writers and all that kind of thing, but I've always liked doing something a bit different from what I've done before. And I went there really partly because I was asked, but because I thought I would learn, and I did. I learned a lot, and of course I actually did my first bit of writing for actors, which was a sort of cut down version of Animal Farm, preceded by a dramatised biography of George Orwell, which we put on for schools and others, and I don't know if anybody liked it very much, but anyway, it was there. But you do learn. In theatre, you can train for a lot of things, but you also learn by doing. There's just no way of not learning by doing, especially if there's an audience out there telling you one way or the other.
They will let you know, will they? Yeah. And obviously with your work that you've done in journalism writing and bringing that through to writing something like this, you've worked in so many different areas, yet it's got to have that spark and seed. You say you can learn, but you've got to have something there to work with. And what was it that in your head went, yeah, I can write a play, I can do that?
It's very difficult. I can remember it being something I wanted to do before I ever did anything for a living at all, before apart from some student jobs. And thinking about it and actually starting to write some stuff and realising it was completely dead on the page. It was no good whatsoever. And then I got, partly getting to know actors, but mostly I think just watching a lot of plays and starting to see how they worked really. About which I realise I now know quite a lot. Back then I knew very, very little indeed. But talking to directors, what I realise they need is a structure. Now I've never thought about structure. I thought you write Act 1, Scene 1, and that goes quite well. And then you enter stage left so and so, and well, that's all right, And then the first line of dialogue is a bit of a disappointment, but anyway, you just kind of carry on until you get to the end. But actually, there is much more. It's like putting up a building, actually. You sort of need to know that the walls are going to support the roof before you can really begin the whole thing. And I think doing lots of different jobs has really helped me in that respect. I've got a sense of... I also feel, writing is taking, if you like, a leading role in a conversation. You know, you are talking to people who may well wish to answer back, and even if they don't answer back, they really want you to be saying something interesting enough or grabbing enough for them to stay for the next 2 hours, which is, you know, it's quite an ask, isn't it? We ask people to come in, pay a substantial sum of money, sit down in, hopefully these days, quite a comfortable seat.
They certainly are here.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course they are. And I've sat in some uncomfortable ones in my time. And ask them really to still be concentrating 2.5 hours later, and then you hope go out and say, oh, we've had a great time, and tell their friends. So it continues to be a learning process, actually, and if I start a new play tomorrow, I shall bear all that in mind. And all this good advice I'm giving myself.
Yeah, but do you take it differently when you're writing for a television or radio compared to the stage, or do you still is it the storytelling that's at the heart?
Well, storytelling is at the heart of it, and I find that true actually in journalism as well. It is, you know, journalists call the pieces they write a story, and story is a really interesting word, you know, because it's the same as history, same word, and it comes from the Greek for inquiring, for curiosity. You want to find something out and then pass it on, and then it's a matter of how you do that. So the first bit of it makes people want to carry on to the second bit and the third bit and so on. And there are things in common, even though some of the rules are different. There are things in common to all that, and you do want to keep that conversation going in the same way as, you know, the man in the pub who's telling an anecdote. They can either tell it well or tell it badly, and we've all been there. We've all been there when both have happened, haven't we? And it's kind of it is important to get it right, and you won't necessarily get it right first time, you know, and that's why. Actually, I mean, I'm very grateful for Brastock because it's been on a few times, and it's improved as it's gone along. Memorably, once I had to do it in Wales, and we had to change all the names and some of the lines as well, because, you know, there's a line towards the end about Yorkshiremen not letting their feelings out into the open. Well, the Welsh let them out all the time. So, you know, you have to change stuff, and you learn what is important about different things.
And you say you adapted it effectively into another region. Is that something you've done here, or are we staying in Sheffield?
We're in Yorkshire here.
Yeah.
We are in Yorkshire here, yeah, because I think it is sort of a Yorkshire story, and it's a story about community, which I think translates perfectly well. It's a story about the loss of jobs, which certainly translates very well to anywhere that's been industrial. And it's a story about families. It's about fathers and sons, and most of us have been through that. And it's about husbands and wives, and you know, it's got a lot of domestic drama to it, played at a level of intensity which is greater because of the band. You know, the music there sort of takes you to levels of emotion that ordinary conversations in plays often don't. That's a great help, and that's why music is so important in theatre. Actually, it can sort of suddenly raise things to a pitch where it would sound very high flown if it was put into words.
But the music does the work for you.
The music will do it for you.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be on stage from the 23rd of August at Wolverhampton's Grand Theatre. grandtheatre.co.uk to get your tickets, or call the box office on 01902 429212. Paul, great to know that you've been part of the actual production process here, and this being the first show being put on stage by the Grand itself for nearly 40 years. And I'm sure that you appreciate the importance of that as well.
I certainly do, and it gives me great pride that this piece has been chosen to do that, because it's such a huge adventure that the Grand's embarking on, and it's embarking on it with the community, and you know, this is a show that's about community, and I just feel quite humble actually that I've been asked to do a show which takes place in this way and has all this behind it, right? So much riding on it.
Well, it's going to be well worth the wait that we've had for this one. And once again, grandtheatre.co.uk, get your tickets and come along and see Brastoff and the heart of the city of Wolverhampton. Once again, Paul Allen, thank you.
Thank you.